Welcome to the Health and Wellness Show. You're listening to Maree Gifkins, and I should probably be talking a little bit slower because we're in that slow mode this month, aren't we? And once we've got over Christmas, we start to plan our holidays and time at the beach or the river or with family and have a catch up with the family and just chill down a little bit. And we've got through another year, and it's been a very interesting year for sure. And so today I was thinking about what I should be talking about, and I decided that we're going to have a little conversation about the joy of sleeping. And like everybody, sometimes that just doesn't happen. We just aren't joyful when we're sleeping for one reason or another, or we have periods of time where we just can't sleep. And it seems to elude us, and then there's times where we're off and we're away having a good sleep, and so it's an interesting subject, and I'm by no means an expert in giving you all the answers. I can give you some answers, but there's still a lot of answers there and a lot of areas where nobody knows, so we're still trying to figure it all out. And there's so many, it's not just go to sleep, wake up. There's so much to sleeping. It's quite incredible, and what is perfect? What is a perfect sleep? Or what is ideal sleep? And I guess the thing that most people will agree on is that we have a deep sleep. We have a deep sleep of nothing. We don't remember anything. We don't even know if we've turned over. And we wake up in the morning and it's like, oh yeah, I'm in this room. I'm in this house, or I'm in this country, and you know that you've had a really deep sleep when you have to wake up and actually work out, oh yeah, this is who I am, and this is what country I'm in, and oh yeah, I've got to go to work today. You've had a very deep sleep. And of course, then there's lots of people that just have very shallow sleep, where they don't get into that deep sleep. It's just a very light sleep. And there's so many areas of sleep and so many differences. Like, for an example, the most important time to be asleep is from that 2 o'clock at night till 10 o'clock at night till 2 o'clock in the morning. That is the most ideal time to be able to sleep. That's where you're going to get the most out of your sleep for the night. So even if you can get an hour or two, or even half an hour, it's the most powerfulest time to get into that kind of deep sleep if we can. Why? Why am I saying this? Is because that's when your body is doing the most healing. So if you're not a well person, or you've got struggles, or you're trying to repair your body from whatever, then that 10 till 2 in the morning is your most powerfulest time to sleep. So try and make sure you get into bed before that 10 o'clock, drifting off into that sleep time. And if you can get that 10 to 2, you're doing really well for the healing of your body. If you sleep longer, of course, that's perfect, ideal. But I'm just saying some people might only go to bed at 12, and it's like, oh, you've already missed out on 2 hours of really good deep sleep for your body. But maybe they can't get to sleep, and so they don't go to bed early. But then if you can get those 2 hours, then that's perfect. What if you can't sleep during that time? Don't panic. Just rest in the day between that 10 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Try and get a little bit of a snooze if you can, or relax, sit on the couch, read a book, go out and have a drink on your patio, I don't know. Anything to sort of somewhere around that 10 to 2 mark. Try and get a little bit of time for yourself where you're still and your body can recoup. But the 10 o'clock at night till the 2 o'clock in the morning is the most powerfulest time for you for healing, for your body for healing. And then we've got other times like when is the brain having its deepest rest, into that deep sleep. And that's somewhere from 10 o'clock till 1 o'clock in the morning. That's the most powerfulest time to rest your brain, where it's able to shut down and go into that deep sleep where it's doing its healing, and it's doing that rest. And so that's an important time as well. For another example, between 4 and 6, 4 and 7 is when the liver is actually doing all its housework. So the liver is doing its processing, its cleaning, it's doing its... It's a bit like the guy on the street early hours in the morning when he's sweeping all the leaves and getting rid of all the rubbish. It's the liver's doing that. So that's an important time as well. And quite often people will say to me, oh, I don't sleep very well. And I'll say, what time are you waking up? And they'll go, oh, somewhere around 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock. Can't get back to sleep till about 6 o'clock. And then the alarm goes at 6:30. Oh, great. You know those feelings, and you're like lying there, and you don't want to get up. You refuse to get up. No, I might go back to sleep. And then you only get that little bit of sleep, and then you're awake at 6:30, 7 o'clock, and then you feel a bit dozy because you've missed out on that bit of sleep. So if you're a person that wakes in around that time, between that 3 and 7 or 4 and 6, somewhere around there, and you just can't really get back into a deep sleep, your liver's a bit sensitive. You're a bit sensitive to the liver trying to do all its work. So maybe you need a little tonic for the liver to boost the liver up so that you're not so sensitive to its like switching on phase. And then you've got other times where other organs are doing work as well. So it's quite interesting for the body and what it's doing. And sometimes we can be sensitive to the changes in the body, and that's usually your nerves coming through back to your nerves. So the nerves, if the nervous system is sensitive, agitated, not kind of, the nerves can be like electrical, like the wiring, and it has that coating around the nerves, around the electrical wires. Our nervous system is a little bit like that, and like calcium coats the nerve fibers. There's a few nutrients that will sort of like coat the nerve fibers, and if they're not, if you haven't got enough there, it can make the nerves agitated, and pain can be more than what it was a year ago. And so sometimes it's quite good to make sure that you've got enough nutrients to feed everything, so things can settle down or calm down. So sometimes the nerves are just quite tender and touchy, and so when the body kicks in, like the liver, there's all nerves around there, and as it's moving and rearranging and changing and shifting and trying to deal with all the chemicals that you've had during the day or the meat that you had at night time, it can upset the nerves around it. That wakes you up, but you don't know why you're awake. You can't feel anything. You know, there's no noise around you, and you're not too sure, and you're just like, oh, go to the toilet, oh, go back to sleep, oh, and you're trying to convince yourself to go back to sleep, but you just can't seem to get into that deep sleep again. So there's a lot to sleeping. It's not just go to bed, go to sleep. Some people can do that. It's amazing, very cool. But other people can struggle. You know, have a look at your patterns in your life. You know, I hear from a lot of women, you know, oh, it was when the babies were little and I was always listening out to them and waking, and then they just got into that pattern of light sleeping and couldn't really get into that deep sleep again. Or listening out to when the teenage children were coming home, and then the mum doesn't want to sleep until the children are home and in their beds, and then that carries on for years. You just don't go into that sleep. So you've got to change these patterns. You've got to challenge yourself and trust that the kids will be all right. Send angels to them. That's what I did when my kids were teenagers. It's like, oh God, I refuse to be awake half the night. I'll send angels out with them and to protect them and cover them, and I'll go to sleep. I need my sleep. And so you do have to challenge yourself at times. You know, are you lying awake at night worrying about something? Are you worrying about your work the next day, or the conversation you had with the neighbour, or a friend hurt you somehow? And it's, you know, it goes around in your mind. It goes round and round and round. Next minute you realise it's probably been an hour and a half and you haven't gone off to sleep yet. And then you're like, oh, I've got to get this out of my head so I can relax and go to sleep. So there's lots of things that can be going around. You're worrying about bills, family members not well, maybe you've had a loss of a loved one and you're constantly thinking about them and your mind's going around. You have to, catch yourself thinking and go, okay, let's come back to balance. And it's finding techniques or tools that can help you through those processes. And I certainly have a few tools that I've gathered in my lifetime, and they work extremely well. And, sleeping there's lots of different products out there as well, but it's finding sort of the right one for you. As I said, there's different reasons why we don't sleep. Sometimes people will go to bed and they'll go straight to sleep, bang. And then an hour later, they're wide awake. And they lie there for a few hours before they can sort of go back off to sleep. Or you can get people that go to bed, they're tired, they think, oh yeah, I'm going to have good sleep tonight. They go to bed, lie down. Nah, their brain just won't shut down. Oh, and their brain just will not shut down. It won't. And you can't get into that sleep, and you toss and you turn, you toss and you turn. Or you can go into those light sleeps and you're awake, you go back to sleep, you're awake, go back to sleep, you're awake, go back to sleep, and that can go on all night long, and then you just feel quite tired. Or then there's people that just dream. You're dreaming a lot. The time for dreaming is usually early hours in the morning. That's when the brain's had its big rest, hopefully. It's had that big rest. And then in the early hours in the morning, could be like 5, 6 o'clock, that's when the brain will do its dreaming. And you go into that dream time. And you can be off doing all sorts of things. And sometimes you remember your dreams, and that's very clever. And that means that you've got good energy. Or I shouldn't say good energy. It means that you have enough energy to be able to remember your dreaming. If you don't remember your dreams, sometimes it's just you. But sometimes it can be you haven't got enough energy in the body to actually be able to remember your dreams. And actually, I've read a few articles where they actually talk about you have to have enough energy to sleep. If you don't have enough energy, you actually can't get into deep sleeps. How's that one? Who would have thought? You would think that if you're tired, you can sleep. Who would have thought that I need energy to sleep? But apparently we do. And if you're too tired, you can't sleep. But then if you remember back to when you had babies, you remember when the babies would be overtired and they just wouldn't sleep. They were too tired to sleep. It's like, maybe there's a theory in that. Okay, so there's lots of different reasonings. If you're a person that can't get off to sleep and the brain just won't shut down, even though you're not worrying about things or you can't think about things, you're not thinking about things in particular, possibly there's your kidneys are not as well as they should be, or kidneys, bladder, there's something going on with there. And so you could try parsley tea. That one's quite good if you're 2 cups a day. And that can help settle, relax the bladder and the kidneys, and then you go into a deeper sleep. If you're a person that is waking a lot, that can be nerves. Your nerves are agitated, irritated, or it could also be the adrenal glands. So the adrenal glands can kick in as well. We have that adrenaline, and if you've got a lot of adrenaline running during the day, it's like battery acid. When you've got adrenaline and you're panicking about this and panicking about that and worried about this and worried about that, and that adrenaline is being pumped, and it's like battery acid, and that just irritates all the nerves. It can irritate organs, and then when you do want to relax and go to sleep, you can't because there's so much there irritating. So we need to calm ourselves down and go back to that she'll be right, mate. Or go back into chilling out and going, is this really worth worrying about? this will actually sort itself out, or once this is done, then that will be done, and then it all just flows through. So if you can't change something, I have a very good saying, park it to the side. If you can't deal with stress straight away, if you can't deal with that stress, park it to the side for later. Don't let it go round and round in your mind. Now, if you need to talk to me about anything or to make an appointment, I'm in Hastings in Waipakarau, and my phone number is 0272 49 50 90. So that's 0272 49 50 90. So you're listening to Maree Gifkins, and we're talking about sleep patterns. And or you might have restless legs. Restless legs keep us awake, in one leg or both legs, and it could go for an hour, it could go for 4 hours. How annoying is that? And it just won't allow you to go into a sleep. And that can be magnesium deficiency, it could be the nerves are agitated, maybe you need to go for a 20-minute walk, 7 o'clock at night before you get into bed, just to move the muscles and the blood supply. And sometimes that's enough to help with the restless legs. Sometimes it's the bone structure in the feet isn't right, and allowing all the nerves and the muscles and the blood supply through properly. So there's a few, sometimes you just can't give a person it's this answer all the time. It just won't work. It will work for majority of people, and then it won't work for somebody else. So I can only give you a kind of a broad outline of things. And things that I've read about, discovered, worked with somebody. So there's all these different aspects. If you think your adrenals are really low and you've been under a lot of stress for a long time, I'm talking, 6 months, a year. These days, that's not very long, is it? People are stressed for years. And it's stuff just keeps happening in life. So if you think your adrenals are a little bit low, you can take licorice root. You could take B5. B5 is one of the B like a B complex, B12, B6. You've probably heard of those. B3. So there's a B5. It's also called pantothenic acid, and that one's very good for feeding the adrenal glands, bringing it back, helping with the lactic acid in the body. Stiff joints, if you've got stiff joints when you wake up in the morning, they're not just taking a while to work through it. Sometimes we need a little bit of B5 in our diet. So there's different things for different conditions that are happening. You can also, the cherries, we're in cherry season time now, so yum yum. I'm in heaven. This is why I live in Hawke's Bay. There's a very tart cherry. It's really tart, but they make tablets for sleeping, made from the cherries, but it's not the sweet cherries, it's the really tart ones, and you don't want to eat too many, you just can't stomach it. But they make those into tablets. So valerian root, that's very good for relaxing the nerves. So, if you're on medications or something, you need to talk to your doctor. Don't take what I say as gospel. You need to check that out, okay? I'm not a doctor, and I am a natural therapist of 25 years, so I do know some things, but I'm not a doctor, okay? And so you can also, getting back to those adrenal glands, you can also put in a bit of food every 2 hours. So have your lunch, you have your breakfast, lunch and tea. Then in between you have good healthy snacks. I'm not talking about donuts and cream buns and toast with Nutella on it. I'm talking about a carrot stick and apple, or celery stick and pear. Putting in a few nuts. You don't have to do too many. Now, did you know that you have to put your nuts in your freezer? Stop laughing. When you buy nuts, you have to put all your nuts in the freezer, whether it's cashew nuts, walnuts, about 48 hours, and that kills any pathogens inside the nuts, okay? And then just have them in the fridge, because you don't want to be eating nuts that have pathogens in the middle, fungus, mold, spores, all those sort of things, okay? So in the freezer, 48 hours, then in the fridge. Makes a big difference. All these little things add up, okay? So why am I saying to eat every 2 hours? I'm not talking about eating a big meal. I'm talking about having a little snack in between. Why? Because it takes pressure off the adrenal glands. All right? Because when you're hungry, when you eat, let's say we eat breakfast, it all gets digested within a couple of hours. It's released all its blood sugars, and then the blood sugar starts to drop. So then the adrenals have to start producing the hormones to keep that balance. And then you have lunch, you don't have anything until lunchtime, then you have some food. Oh yeah, we got all our blood sugars now, we're all in balance again, we're in sync again for a few hours. And then the blood sugars start to go down. And then you're like getting hungry. No, I don't want to eat food, or you're too busy, can't think about it. And then the adrenals have to kick in to keep your blood sugars at a stable balance. And so then we have dinner, and then we have supper. Oh no, can't have supper, we've got to go to bed. And then you're lying in bed wondering why you can't go to sleep. If your adrenals are kicked in so many times during the day, it's not easy. You keep depleting them and depleting them. So it is okay to have a little bit of snacking in between, which will help your blood stabilize your blood sugars, stop your body having to use the adrenals all the time, and calm the system down. It's also very good for the brain as well. We need the blood sugars and we need the sugars and simple sugars into the brain to think, to be able to function well. It's why when there's a loss of a loved one, people, what do they bring you? They don't bring you fruit, they bring you cakes, chocolate cakes and banana cakes and cream buns and all sorts of products that have like carbohydrates in them. Why do we do this? Because we know that the person who's lost the loved one is using up a lot of sugars in their brain. They're processing a lot, and so we actually crave those carbohydrates. And so we tend to go for those kind of foods that have the fast carbohydrates, but the trouble is they have the fats and the sugar in it, and that's what does the damage. We do need the carbohydrates, but you need simple, they call them critical clean carbohydrates to feed the brain, and that's like potato, pumpkin, kumara, okay? And I'm talking about them boiled, steamed, or dry baked. Not cooked with oil, okay? It changes the whole makeup of it. So spaghetti is made from flour, so it's not a clean carbohydrate. Chippies, again, are cooked with oil, so it's not a clean carbohydrate. If you want to feed your brain really well, you need those critical clean carbohydrates. And so potatoes, pumpkin and kumara are perfect. And they do feed the brain and keep it well. And there's lots of other things as well that will feed the brain and keep it well, like celery juice. It's very good for the brain. That works more on the electrical mechanisms in the brain and the firing of the neurons. You know how you walk into a room and go, oh, what have I come in here for? And you have to backtrack. If you don't like it and it's been happening more and more and more, and you're like, I just don't like this, I don't know what my future's going to be, get onto some celery juice. It's a cup of celery juice first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. And if you can tolerate and it's without the leaves, okay, don't put the leaves in because they make it more bitter. You have a glass full, and if your stomach's okay with that, then you can lead that up to 2 cups. Each day, okay? But let's just start off with 1 cup and see how you feel. So that's on an empty stomach first thing in the morning. Now, so if you would like to give me a ring, if you need to make an appointment and have a chat to me, you're more than welcome. I have a clinic in Hastings and King Street, and I'm there Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays, and I'm in Waipakarau on Mondays and Fridays. And I can be contacted by phone number 0272 49 50 90. So Happy New Year.